Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava, page 32b, at the top of the page, starting with the words V'im Amad Bal Kore Chayev. But if the owner of the crossbeam stopped, causing the barrel to collide with the beam and break, the former is liable, since the latter had no way of anticipating that he would stop. And if he said to the owner of the barrel, "Stop," he is exempt from liability for breaking the barrel. Conversely, if the owner of the barrel was walking first, and the owner of the crossbeam last, and the barrel was broken by the crossbeam, the owner of the crossbeam is liable. But if the owner of the barrel stopped, the owner of the crossbeam is exempt from liability for breaking the barrel. And if he said to the owner of the crossbeam, "Stop," the owner of the crossbeam is liable. And similarly, these halachot apply in a case where this one came with his lamp and that one came with his flax, and the lamp set fire to the flax. Gemara. Rabba bar Natan asked Rav Huna, with regard to one who causes injury to his wife during sexual intercourse, what is the halacha? Is he liable to pay damages? Is it reason that since he is acting in a permitted manner, he is exempt? Or perhaps he should pay attention and be more careful? Rav Huna said to Rabba bar Natan, "You learn this halacha in the Mishnah concerning one person walking with a crossbeam and another with a barrel, which rules that the owner of the crossbeam is exempt because this one had permission to walk and that one also had permission to walk. Similarly, since the husband had permission to engage in intercourse with his wife, he injures her in the process. If he injures her in the process, he is exempt." Rava disagreed with Rav Huna's opinion and said the husband is liable due to a kal v'chomer inference from the halacha with regard to manslaughter, as it is stated in the Torah, as when a man goes into the forest with his neighbor to chop wood, and the head slips off the helve and finds his neighbor, and he dies, he shall flee to one of these cities and live. Deuteronomy 19:5. And just as in the forest, where this person entered his domain and that person entered his domain, as it is the domain of the public, and nevertheless the one who kills unintentionally is considered like one who entered another's domain, and is therefore liable to be exiled to a city of refuge. Then, with regard to this husband who actually enters another's domain, all the more so is it not clear that he should be liable for the injury he causes her? The Gemara raises an objection to Rava's opinion. But what of this Mishnah which teaches that the owner of the crossbeam is exempt, and this one had permission to walk, and that one had permission to walk? And Rav Huna inferred from here that the husband is likewise exempt. The Gemara answers, the two cases are different. There, in the case of the Mishnah, both sides were similarly walking, and one who caused damage is therefore exempt due to his right to walk there. By contrast, here the husband is the only active participant in the intercourse. Therefore, since he is the one performing an action, he is liable even though he is acting with permission. The Gemara asks, and is she not considered an active participant? But isn't it written with regard to forbidden sexual relations, even the souls that do them shall be cut off from among their people, Leviticus 18:29, indicating that both the man and the woman are considered to be performing an action. The Gemara answers, the verse is referring to the fact that they both have pleasure from the act. The woman's pleasure is tantamount to active transgression, and she is therefore punished if she participates willfully. But with regard to a wife's injury, he is the one who is considered to be performing an action, and he therefore is liable. The Mishnah teaches in a case where the owner of the crossbeam was walking first and the owner of the barrel was walking behind him, if the barrel was broken by the crossbeam, the owner of the crossbeam is exempt. Reish Lakish says if two cows were in the public domain, one of them prone, one of them leaning, like just crouching down, and one of them walking, the cow that was walking kicked the cow that was prone, the owner is exempt. If the prone cow kicked the cow that was walking, the owner is liable to pay. Let us say that the Mishnah supports this statement. As it states, if the owner of the crossbeam was first, and the owner of the barrel was last, and the barrel was broken by the crossbeam, he is exempt. But if the owner of the crossbeam stopped, the owner of the crossbeam is liable. The Gemara explains the proof, but here it is clear that it is like a case where the prone cow kicked the cow that was walking, since the one carrying the barrel was walking and the one carrying the crossbeam stopped in the public domain, causing damage to the former. And the Mishnah teaches, in this case, that the owner of the crossbeam is liable. The Gemara responds, and how can you understand that reasoning? You wanted to support the statement of Reish Lakish from the Mishnah. Not only does it not support Reish Lakish, it even raises a difficulty to his opinion. The reason Reish Lakish stated that the owner of the prone cow is liable is that it kicked the walking cow. But if the walking cow was damaged because by itself it collided with the prone cow, he would be exempt. But the Mishnah discusses a case where the one carrying the barrel ran into the crossbeam by himself, without the one carrying the crossbeam actively hitting it, and it teaches that the owner of the crossbeam is nevertheless liable. The Gemara explains the Mishnah is referring to a case where the crossbeam blocked the entire width of the road like a carcass. Since the one carrying the barrel could not avoid it, the one carrying the crossbeam is liable, although he did not actively break the barrel. By contrast, here, Reish Lakish's statement is referring to a case where the cow was lying down on one side of the public domain, and the other cow should have walked on the other, unobstructed side. Therefore, if the damage is caused only as a result of their collision, the owner of the prone cow is exempt. The Gemara suggests, rather, it is the latter clause of the Mishnah that supports Reish Lakish's statement as it teaches. Conversely, if the owner of the barrel was walking first, and the owner of the crossbeam last, and the barrel was broken by the crossbeam, the owner of the crossbeam is liable. But if the owner of the barrel stopped, the owner of the crossbeam is exempt from liability for breaking the barrel. But here, it is clear that it is like a case where the walking cow kicked the prone cow, and the Mishnah teaches that the owner of the crossbeam is exempt, lending support to Reish Lakish's ruling. The Gemara rejects this suggestion. The Mishnah exempts the one carrying the crossbeam because he was walking in his normal manner when he hit the barrel. Here, perhaps, the owner of the prone cow can say to the owner of the walking cow, although you have permission to walk over me, in other words, for your cow to walk over my cow, you have no permission to kick me. In other words, for your cow to kick my cow. New Mishnah. With regard to two people who were walking in the public domain, or one who was running and another one who was walking, or who were both running and they damaged one another, both of them are exempt. Gemara. The Gemara comments, the Mishnah is not in accordance with the opinion of Isi ben Yehuda, as it is taught in a Baraita. Isi ben Yehuda says that one who runs in the public domain and causes damage is liable to pay for any damage he causes because his behavior is unusual in the public domain. And Isi concedes with regard to one who runs and causes damage at twilight, on the eve of Shabbat, that he is exempt because he is running with permission. Rabbi Yochanan says the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Isi ben Yehuda. The Gemara asks, and did Rabbi Yochanan actually say this? That if one runs and causes damage, he is liable? But doesn't Rabbi Yochanan say as a principle that the halacha is in accordance with an unattributed Mishnah? And we learned in this Mishnah that if one was running and the other was walking, or if they were both running, they are exempt. The Gemara answers, the Mishnah which exempts one who was running is referring to twilight on the eve of Shabbat, when the people are permitted to run in the public domain. The Gemara explains from where is it inferred that the Mishnah is referring to twilight on the eve of Shabbat. It is inferred from the fact that it teaches, or who were both running, they are exempt. Why do I need this case as well? Now that the Mishnah teaches that if one was running and the other was walking, the one running is exempt, it is necessary to state that he is exempt when both of them are running. Rather, this is what the Mishnah is saying. If one was running and the other one was walking, he is exempt. In what case is this statement said? It is said with regard to twilight on the eve of Shabbat, when running in the public domain is permitted. But on a weekday, if one was running and the other was walking, the one who was running is liable. If both were running, even on a weekday, they are exempt. This emendation explains the need to mention the case where both were running. The master said above, and Isi concedes with regard to one who runs and causes damage at twilight on the eve of Shabbat, that he is exempt because he is running with permission. The Gemara asks, what is the reason that running at twilight on the eve of Shabbat is considered to be with permission? The Gemara answers, it is like that which Rabbi Hanina would say, as Rabbi Hanina would say, at twilight on the eve of Shabbat,